friends. Guess who? It is Ask a Flower Farmer, and it is your flower farming friend, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm just super glad to be here today. I don't get to do these every week anymore. We have other people chiming in, and so it's really become great to be here with you guys and to do my best to try to answer your questions. And if you would like to submit a question for me to answer, just put it, see the little bubble down at the bottom of your screen. It's got a question mark in it. Put your question in there. That way I won't miss it. And while we are waiting for some questions to come up, I have a little bit of housekeeping. First off, I posted today on social media that I posted a video, and it literally was in my backyard this morning, and just kind of scanned the horizon and the birds and my hellebore garden and my peonies and one of our big gardens out back. And it was just, I've just spent a long time in my flower farming career. I didn't realize this was a deal. That's why I'm sharing this with you guys. So I realized 25 years in, which is where this is my 25th year of being a commercial flower farmer, that a big part for me, another one of those making lemonade out of lemons, because I couldn't have structures, meaning I couldn't have hoop houses and greenhouses or anything related to that. I've just found other ways to do everything, and we did that, and we did it very, very successfully. But I'm really reaping the benefit of that now that we're kind of winding down and backing off of production in these last few years, because what is in fact has grown out of my flower farming business all these 25 years is that I have this beautiful place that I live and work and now get to live even more in, because it's like a flower farm at its best, right? I mean, my hellebore patch, my peonies, and just so many pieces of what I have built all these years are now we get to continue on enjoying. So it was an asset that I wasn't even really aware of, but I will tell you that I love living in this environment, and that's always been, in flower farming school really often I speak about, what's the point of doing something you want to do as a business if you don't enjoy it, right? I mean, so being able to be really happy living in my home that is also my business has been really important to me. And it's just grown into an incredible asset. Not only a true asset, but an asset for our day-to-day living, right? I mean, everybody talks about wanting to live the flower farming life. I don't want chaos. I don't want that craziness. So I've just really worked hard to actually do that and create this loving place, this place that I love to live, right? So I see we've got some questions coming on. So I've got some updated things for you. So first off, we are having an open farm June 24th. And if you want to learn more about it, you can actually go to thegardenersworkshop.com/open farm, one word, and get the details. And, that it's open to the public from 10 to 4, both the warehouse where I am right now, and the farm, which is about 4 miles away from here. We're having a very special event for my students, Dave Dowling's students, and Ellen Frost's students of our school courses that morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., which does have to be registered for, and you will be receiving an email to register in June. So you cannot sign up for that yet. It's going to be tons of fun, and it's rain or shine, so bring your gear if that's, if we have bad weather day. We have done it in pouring rain before. And the party goes on. We got, I have an umbrella and everybody brings theirs, right? So the open farm. And then the other thing I wanted to share that we really haven't said much about yet, but my course, Flower Farming School Online, is now available. We have tweaked it into a tool that can be, instead of just having registration once a year and cramming, and then having access to it for life, we have made it available 24/7, meaning you can purchase it anytime, and you can learn more about that at thegardenersworkshop.com. And so what the biggest change about it is that when we would do it, dripping it out over 6 weeks, I would do a weekly Q&A with the students. Well, friends, there are over 2,500 questions and answers in the course that are now cataloged by keyword that you can key search any topic, and it not only searches the Q&As to frequently asked questions, right, but also the entire course. So we've learned that people use it more that way, and so that's what has allowed us to just really turn the course into something that can be a tool that can be used all the time instead of just during those 6 weeks. So you can learn more about it over at thegardenersworkshop.com, and I would love for you to join in. And then if for some reason you can't find the answer to your question, you have the option to join my special closed private Facebook group just for my students where you can tag me and ask a question. So it's a little bit different setup, but we have found it to be more useful and easier to use, and it's a tool. So I'll be talking more about that. But and two, if you purchase it before the early June, then that means you'll get the special invite to the open farm for that early morning coffee with your instructors on the farm. So we're really looking forward to doing that. All right, friends, the other updates is I don't know if you're on the wait list, but Benary's Giants Red Scarlet, which has been out of stock for 2 years, we have it. It's still in packaging. And I would say if you really want Scarlet, you should get on the wait list. You can just go over to the website and go to the product and just get on the wait list. That means you'll get notified the minute it goes on stock. And then also, if you don't already know this, the rooster peppers are now on the website and in the app. So that means you can get those cut flower pepper seeds for those ornamental peppers that are so awesome. You can see a picture of them. If you do it in the app, you know, the shipping on our phone app for seed-only orders is always free. So that's a great reason to download the app and head on over there. All right. So I think that's all I have for that. And the other thing is, guess what we just got? And I'm standing in the back part of the warehouse right now. You can see there's pallets of all kinds of stuff. We just got another shipment of Swift blockers, y'all. The commercial soil blockers that are awesome. And we just got some. And I don't know if you know, but we have like a special kit over on the website where you can get the 75 blocker. That means it makes 75, a little bit less than an inch blocks. Some of the trays, what all do we give you? Oh, the mini 75, a 32-ounce bag of the nutrient mix to make your own blocking mix at home. You add your peat moss and compost. The scraper cedar, 5 of those awesome English trays that we have for $259.95. Let's just say it, $260, y'all. That is a regular price of $275, so you're saving like $15, which is probably what the shipping is, so you're saving yourself. Anyway, they're back. We've got them in stock, and totally stoked over that. And if you don't know about it, haven't seen it, go watch the videos that are on my product page. We have the Swift Mini, the Swift Blocker Mini 75 and the Mini 27, and I'm using the heck out of them. And you can see more of that over on the product. All right, y'all. So let's see what y'all have for questions today. So, Harvest Farm Flower Company, first year flowering foxgloves that are perennials in zone 7, or should I treat them as annuals? So it really depends on, there's perennial foxgloves and then there's hardy annual foxgloves. The hardy annual ones bloom the first year, but they typically aren't long lived and they might reseed themselves. We only grew the hardy annual ones. I grew Foxy, I think Camelot, and maybe Dalmatian. You have to check those, but I think those are the ones that we grew. Now that Tucker eats plants, I don't grow digitalis. It is not just poisonous, it's deadly. I mean, it's digitalis, right? Anyway, so you have to figure out what it is. But if we fall plant them, they bloom the following spring, and then we're done with them. It just totally depends on how you set up your garden. You know, I mean, we are an annual farmer. That was the biggest bang for our buck. So we would not let them perennialize. Fussing with temperatures. I wonder if I'm cooking my seeds. Soil feels really warm to touch. I use racks and blocks, feel cool, no germination with saponaria, phlox, and scabby. Well, first off, I don't know about phlox because I don't grow that, but saponaria and scabbiosis are all cool season, hardy annuals. So that means that they're on the cooler side. I don't know where you are raising in almonds. Maybe you're in Australia and the opposite of us, but it's way too late for us to start those here. So for us, when we're starting, first off, saponaria always does best for us direct seeded in the fall. That's because the days are warm, nights are cool, and that gives them that temperature that they really need. Scabbiosis, we plant also in the fall, and then again in very early spring. We do soil blocks on a cookie cooling rack so that they're getting warmth, but it's a little cooler than sitting directly on the heat mat. And I don't know about you use racks, but if you're using a rack, like metal wire rack with a heat mat on it, there's no surface there for the heat mat to actually work properly, and it might be freaking out and overheating. You should always put a seedling heat mat on a solid surface. If you're using wire racks, you could put cardboard down with a towel or something on it. It just needs something to reflect off of for heat, right? So it doesn't just dissipate. So hope that helps. I'm in Northeast Coast. So let's see, cultivating morning. Could you touch on succession planting for warm season annuals? How many successions do you try for? Are any direct sown, all soil blocks? How many weeks apart? So succession planting, it doesn't matter if you are a home gardener, a small grower, or a gigantic grower. We all succession plant, or you should all be succession planting, right? And so it's almost all the warm season annuals. There's a few of them that are too long season that you can't succession. Like, for instance, hairy balls comes to mind, Gumpacarpus, Physocarpus. But yes, we succession, and they can vary. Sunflowers we do every week for 26 weeks. All the branching annuals, which is the lion's share of what we grow, you can plant several times. It depends on how long your growing season is and what kind of market you're doing. I mean, how many flowers do you need? My book, Vegetables Love Flowers, which is about a 3-season cutting garden, right, really is all about succession planting. There's even diagrams in the back, and it's like you take your garden space and break it into thirds, break it into 3 pieces. One piece is planted in cool flowers. Another piece is planted in my first very early spring, not very early, my first spring summer annual recipe. And the third section is planted in my second succession. And then by the time you get that planted, your cool flower stuff is done and you can start planting over there. The problem is that most people don't pull out crops when they're really done. They let them hang around too long, so you can't succession plant properly. And I will say we still haven't released all the information on my new book that's coming out February of 2024, but it's going to help you with all this. It'll be out in, 10 months? But Vegetables Love Flowers really gives you that. So it actually helps you to try to figure all that stuff out. But when I was in high production, we succession planted like every 3 to 4 weeks for multiple times. Smaller grower, you might only do 2 or 3 successions, 3 probably. So it just really depends on what your volume that you need and how it takes a lot of steps. So you have to have people to help you, right? So I would recommend Vegetables Love Flowers to just wrap your head around succession planting and how to actually incorporate that into your garden. Zone is 8B, Southeast Georgia. Is it too late to plant straw flowers? So here's my take on straw flowers. I don't think so. Straw flowers, which are in fact a cool season hardy annual, and however, they are not winter hardy here for me. We're right on the edge. They would probably be winter hardy for you. However, I have found that it's not really necessary to plant them in the fall because they get super tall regardless of when we plant them. And we did an experiment last year where Bobo and I succession planted them. So I planted them in very early spring like I did this year. If you come to the open farm, you'll see those. They should still be, they should probably just be coming into their own. We planted them, very early spring is like mid-February. We then planted them again in about 4 or 5 weeks, and then we planted them again in 4 or 5 weeks. And all of those additional plantings, they didn't get as tall. Our darn straw flowers are chest high when we very early spring plant them. Well, they're way taller than they need to be. So we knew we had room to wiggle. That's one of the ways you can figure out how far you can push succession planting cool season hardy annuals if you are in an area that has a longer spring is if it's a super tall crop, you could probably do it because that's what happens when it starts warming up. They get shorter and shorter. Those last 2 plantings that we did definitely got tall enough, so they were still waist high. That is still plenty high. So I would say no, we definitely transplant them, and I would give it a whirl. But I would for sure, the point of getting them in very early spring is that you get the blooms the earliest, right? So put that on your calendar for next year. I purchased the Painted Petal Flower Company. I purchased landscape fabric to lay down over my beds to control weed growth. However, light is getting through and weeds are growing. Can I lay down pine straw to smother the weeds, or will it make my pH too acidy? So you're not talking to a fabric fan. We have never grown in landscape fabric. I've used it in pathways. I take that back. Years and years and years ago, I grew in it, meaning I put it on my beds. I don't know where you are, Painted Petal Flower Company, but here in the Mid-Atlantic, where we have long, warm growing seasons, the weeds grow through landscape cloth like it helps them, it seems like. So that's the first problem. And the problem really, really is that a lot of them are perennial weeds like nutgrass and Bermuda grass, all those weeds that just don't die and go away even in the winter. And landscape fabric, especially when it's down in a permanent situation, actually smothers soil. And that's from Virginia Tech. That's not my personal opinion, from their ag department. So we don't use or recommend using landscape fabric because, in fact, it turns out to be more of a maintenance mess when you're living in the South. It can be totally different experience for people that live where their growing season is not as long and as hot and humid and moist as it is here. So I would say if you put mulch on top of it, then it's buried and growing stuff on it. Stuff grows through it and on top of it big time. And then you have to have machinery to actually get it up off of your soil. So I am sorry to say that, but that is kind of how we just get nightmare stories from people trying to get it removed. It's just not really. I actually met a man at the University of Maryland. I was up there speaking several years ago. He was a landscaper. His whole business is removing landscape fabric from people's yards. That's his business. That's kind of was his niche, because it's really, really a big problem. Sea and soil design. Do you grow didiscus? And if so, when and what temperature does it quit on you? So we actually test grew that this year. It does not fall plant for us. It got winter killed. But of course we had that polar blast. So we'll try it again. But I very early spring planted it, and it is looking quite beautiful. So we'll see. Does it actually, the question is, will it be tall enough very early spring planted here. I would say somebody in 8B or in 9 for sure, but 8B probably could fall plant it, because it did really well until we had got down to 11 degrees around here. So we'll keep you posted on that. Be sure and ask me again much further down the road. They're only about maybe 5 or 6 inches tall. Do I have to pinch amaranth to keep stems short, or can I just plant closer together and not thin? Amaranth 100% should be pinched. Not only are the stems so bloomin' enormous, but the flower heads will also be enormous. So we plant them 4 rows to a 30-inch bed and 6 inches between the plants in the row. And then we pinch, and we pinch hard. So you can pinch. We pinch in the soil block tray quite often, but you give them 7 to 10 days to recover from the pinch before you then transplant them out into the garden. Or you can plant them unpinched and then pinch them out in the garden, whatever works for you. But we pinch them down to the bottom 2 leaves, and it's really hard to do that. But once you do it, you will never, ever not pinch again, because it just gives you an abundance of super useful stems. I mean, if you've got a landscape and you're having a fun place to grow them, let some of them get big. I mean, they're like right straight out of Dr. Seuss, right? I mean, the huge blooms and the twisty kind of stems. But for flower growing, you definitely got to pinch the heck out of them, and then just keep them cut, and just know that they are a magnet for cucumber beetles, amongst other pests. Cultivating the heart. Your favorite top 5 greenery plants for bouquet fillers. Well, greenery, I'd have to think about that. But we grow for summer. It's different for whatever season. For summer, we just grow tons. I think we have 5 different types of basil getting ready to be planted out in the garden as soon as it warms up at night. We use a lot of perennials and, not perennials, it is a perennial. In our native plant border, solidago, we use that before it ever blooms. That's a great one. So I'm just, sorry, my mind is kind of blank. Bells of Ireland, which of course is a cool flower, Bupleurum. So there's a ton of fillers, but what everybody considers a filler is different. You know, hydrangeas, we use them as they turn green. The tons of filler. That's what those and sunflowers are what floated our bouquet business for all those years, right? I mean, I have a huge grove of mop head hydrangeas that we let start to color from blue to green, and they were an amazing filler. I mean, it would just poof up. Everybody loves them, and it would poof up a bouquet. So we use an array of a few perennials that grow in our native border, some shrubs like hydrangeas, and then lots of fragrant mountain mint also, which is another invasive perennial that grows in our native border. So I hope that helps. Where is this? First time growing cool flower, Bells of Ireland, zone 4A, northern Vermont. We're having 40-degree cloudy days, 34 to 38 degree evenings. Would you plan out? They're happy-ish, but will likely appreciate going out. So you started inside with transplants. I mean, Bells of Ireland, even though it says zone 7 is where it's winter hardy to, I know people that are growing in fall planting in zone 6 and wintering them over with a little bit of attention. And you know, that's something else that's a part of my course that we don't talk about very much. There is what's called the Cool Flower Field Growers Report, and it's an interactive document where you can go in and write in your experience with a particular cool flower, but you have access to what everybody else has written, and you can search it like you could search Bells of Ireland. You could search your zone and see what other growers. There's so little information out there available about, I wonder if that really is not hardy in my zone. So that's something else you get access to within my course. I would say if they're hardened off, or if you're going to row cover them to soften the blow of them going straight out. But they definitely, I mean, they took, ours wintered over and survived 11 degrees through the polar blast of December, right? So yeah, I would definitely get them outside for sure. What nighttime temperatures should I look for to plant out zinnias? So what I'm looking for to plant warm season tender annuals, which a zinnia is, outside, is when it's 60 degrees or above at night. I don't even look at daytime temperatures. It's all about the nighttime temperatures, y'all. And I look at the 2-week forecast on the phone app and look for that. And we still haven't. Normally we're just about getting there here in Virginia, but the next 2 weeks we still haven't hit 60. So what does that mean? So that means we're planting and we're covering them. We aren't putting hoops down, but we're definitely putting covers on them after we plant them. No, 51 degrees at night won't kill celosia and zinnias, but it doesn't make them happy either. So think about this. You plant them early. You plant them out there, and they're pretty okay during the day. I mean, we've gone up to 70s and 80s during the day. But at night, I mean, it was 46 degrees here last night. And that won't kill them. But it totally shuts them down. So then the next day, it warms up again, and they think, okay, maybe I'll come out. And then that night, it's cold again. It is very, very stressful on your plants. And what happens when your plants are really stressed? They send up the flag saying, hey, pests and disease, I'm over here. Because they're stressed. We know that stressed plants attract pests and disease by the chemistry of what's going on with them. So if you are going to plant before it's 60 degrees or above at night, you have to take steps. It's a pain in the neck, trust me. I'm the one covering and uncovering. And I'm literally leaving our stuff covered during the day now because it's not getting so hot right now during that time. So 60 degrees or above at night is what you're looking for to start planting warm season tender annuals out. All right. So sea and soil design, can you talk about growing tuberoses? So tuberoses, especially for those of us, like we are zone 7B/8A. I literally live right on the line. Depends on how the wind's blowing. So tuberoses for us can be left in the ground, meaning we can leave dahlias in the ground too. That means we don't have to dig them every fall. And I will tell you, tuberoses are a cash cow. We got our tubers from Dave Dowling at Ball Hort, is where you would find him through WebTrack or Color, whatever it's called. Anyway, Dave Dowling is where you get them. And you buy them and you get one tuber. That one tuber will bloom this year. But next year, they perennialize and get so big. But if you live more north, then you're going to have to dig them every fall and replant them in the spring. Us leaving them in the ground, we start cutting tuberoses, I will guess, and say early July and right up till frost. And I mean, you just can't believe how many stems we got. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And they're super fragrant. We grow the singles. The doubles just don't make very good cut flowers. They get dirty fast. And the fragrance is really overpowering. That's the complaint we hear from people. But we grow the singles. Oftentimes when farmers dig theirs, they'll divide them and sell them online. That's a good way to get them too. But they multiply quickly, so you don't have to buy a ton. Buy some, whatever the order, the increments they come in. Just knowing that, especially if you're in zone 7B or south, 7B, 8A, 8B, or 9, you can leave them in the ground. And so they'll perennialize really well. And they were a big crop, super tall. I mean, they're almost chest high, and super fragrant, and commercial customers loved them. I mean, we would only put one in a bouquet because they're so fragrant. They can really be very overpowering. So hopefully that helped. So friends, we are out of time. And so it was great to be here with you. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Dave Dowling is Ask a Flower Farmer next week. Be sure you bring all your not to mention tuberoses, but ranunculus and dahlias, and he is the perennial woody, which are shrubs, and bulb man. He is a walking encyclopedia. And so remember, our open farm is June 24th. We already have people chiming in that they're coming from all over the country, which it just flatters me so much, y'all. You know, I have a little teeny farm in the middle of the city. And we just love opening it up once a year for folks to come. And our warehouse will be open. So this will look a little different when you come here, but the team is already preparing for your visit here. And Bobo's and I are trying to get everything planted so you got something to look at when you come. And remember, if you are my student, Dave's student, or Ellen's student of our school courses, then you will be receiving a special invitation in early June to sign up for that special early bird on the farm with us. And we just cannot wait. So friends, till we meet again. So let's see, what is today? Wednesday. Friday on the show this week inside the Gardener's Workshop live shop, we'll have a killer harvest once again. Last week we had a big cool flower harvest. If you haven't joined me for that, grab the app, the Gardener's Workshop live shop from your phone's app store and join us. Friends, it's the time to see the cool flowers that maybe you aren't growing yet. And they're gorgeous. They're just gorgeous. So we'll have a boatload. And then, of course, Saturday for Seed Starting Saturday on my YouTube channel at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So grab the app and see you Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. All right, friends. Ciao.